Welcome to this edition of the Teaching Ministry of New Eden. I'm Oscar Crawford. Thank you again for joining me. Today I'm going to be sharing an overview of my latest work entitled Living Christian in an Unchristian World. Please join me for prayer. Blessings to the Creator of our universe. I am thankful today for the privilege to share with friends and loved ones one more time, around the corner and around the world. May this shared moment prove to be a blessing to all who hear and share in Jesus' name. Amen. Living Christian in an Unchristian World. There are a couple of reasons I've written this book. Two really important reasons. The first is Christians have a tendency to act as if they are supremacists. You've heard of supremacists before. You've heard of white supremacists. You've heard of racial supremacists. You've heard people who are class supremacists. Well, I'm going to say to you, there are people who probably practice a spiritual supremacy, and Christians may well be guilty of that. The Bible has told us in John 3:16 that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son for all of us. And we read in other texts in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 that in God giving Jesus to us because he so much loved the world, that Jesus' living and dying was not for himself but for all of us. That we were made right with God by Jesus' living and dying on earth for us. I like that. That's really, really good news. That's the gospel right there. If you don't hear anything else today, that's the gospel. Jesus came to the world. He lived and died for our benefit. I am grateful to God for that because I now get to live in the privileged freedom to model my life after Jesus. Amen. All right. Living Christian in an unchristian world. So what happens when Christians begin to act big-headed like they're bigger than everybody else? Well, they turn their nose down at everybody. Nobody can do anything as good as them. And if you act like that, it is not going to be conducive to kingdom relationship building, which we have been commanded to do. One of the last things Jesus said to us in Matthew chapter 28 is, I want you to go. I really want you to go love. But in your going and loving, I want you to be loving and productive by teaching and sharing and connecting and building kingdom communities. Building kingdom communities, not churches. I'm not talking about churches. And please hear me, I'm not going to be talking about church building and organizational building, even though it can be the result of some of our work together. The objective here was not to build buildings and make great clubhouses where people dress up really pretty on Sunday and have a different kind of behavior than they have in the club on Saturday night. That's the second point. Point number two is that our behavior is hardly different from the behavior of others who do not claim to be Christian or living after the model of Jesus. Are you hearing? Two really big problems. Spiritual supremacy and supremacists are dangerous. They are dangerous. Supremacists are dangerous in any context. And the other is trying to be like everybody else so much that you can't tell that there is a distinctive difference between Christians and people who are not. Now, some things I'll be qualifying that with in the book. We'll talk about take Christian women out of the abortion clinics and many of them will go broke. Are you hearing me? Take Christian women out of the abortion clinics. Christian women. And if you want to know a kind of a hierarchy on who's doing the most of this, let me tell you, Mormons are doing it least. Do you hear me? Mormons are doing it least because Mormons are regarded to be the most practical, practicing group of their religious faith of all the faith groups in the country, all the faith groups of Christians in the country. And then in terms of religious groups, people who practice their faith, Christians and Muslims come next. Are you hearing me? And then the Christian group of Roman Catholics come in next, and at the bottom of the list are Jews. I mean, this is just research. It's not me just spouting this out to you, and I'll be verifying this to you in the book and giving you references so you can trace them yourself. I'm not just talking out of a tree. I'm talking about the diligent study and research I've done to validate some of the things that I'm thinking that I want to be talking to you about. So, spiritual supremacists, and then our behavior not radically different from others. If you look at prisons across the country, prisons are populated with Christian men and women. Prisons are populated with Christian men and women. Take us out, the prison's closed. Prison industrial complex is gone. Are you listening to me? We have some issues because if we are really living our life after the model of Jesus, we don't end up doing these same kinds of things that others do because we are more mindful of our behavior than that. Now, please don't hear me. The notion that we're perfect or living perfect lives is what makes us supremacists. I'm not suggesting that to you at all. I am suggesting to you that the life and death of Jesus made us right with God, and that we still struggle to maintain our behavior appropriately as we should. Okay, now there's a series of questions I just want to lead in with you too, because the book will be out in the next 7 to 10 days. Really was originally intended to be out on the 10th. But I've had friends take a look at the work, and they've said, Oscar, maybe you want to make some adjustments here. This may be a little too hard, or the language may be a little too heady, maybe a little bit too scholastic and academic. So I've been asked to take another look. And so this book will be out sometime between the 14th and the 20th of the month. I just thank God it's going to be out. I believe it's going to be a blessing to many people. All right. One of the first questions I want to ask you, to ask yourself, is do you really want to live an authentic Christian life and experience? I mean, you really ought to ask yourself that. Do you really want to live an authentic Christian life and experience? Well, Oscar, what does that mean? It means that you'll be involved in doing some of the things that Jesus talked about in Luke chapter 4, verses 18 and 19, where Jesus stands up and proclaims why he's here. Well, I am come to provide needs that people aren't able to meet on their own. Are you listening to me? If I can fix everything by myself, I don't need any help. But there are a lot of people across the world and across North America, the United States, who need a lot of things, from food to shelter to clothing to just basic things. And Jesus says, I am come to provide those things or help you acquire those things that are necessary for life that you haven't been able to do so very well on your own. And so he announces a few of those things. He talks about healing the brokenhearted, opening up the eyes of the blind. And so there are a number of things like that we ought to be found doing. And if we're going to live out an authentic Christian life and experience, we're going to be doing those kinds of things. We're going to be doing the kinds of things that Jesus was doing. Does that make sense to you? All right. Second question I want to ask you is, would you like to know why Christian behavior is much like the behavior of other people? Well, look, it's tough for many living a distinctive life and not doing what everybody else does. Now, Christians, when we try to live at our highest level behavior, we are not going to be getting drunk and using drugs and chasing other people's spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends. We're not going to be involved in that. We're really going to do our very best to mate or live single properly. We're going to mate or live single properly, and to do so, that means that we're trying to live at our highest ideal of love and productivity by living out a model that children might be able to follow and say, hey, you know what, I want to be like that woman or man one day when I grow up. Instead of a child saying, man, I never want to be like that guy, I never want to be like that woman, because they are not about nothing. And you know, one of the things that my parents used to tell me growing up, they would say, you know, if you ain't good for nothing, you ain't good for nothing. And I never want that testimony to be spoken of me. And even if there are people we may have that impression of, that is our opportunity to move in and have meaningful connection with them and help them rehabilitate and build their lives so it can be meaningful to them. I hope that's making sense to you today. The next question I want to ask you is this. Are you ready to live a more loving and productive life as a kingdom relationship builder? Okay, Oscar, what does that all mean? Okay, so Jesus, when he came to the earth, and he lived and he began to move through first century Israel and do what we now regard Christian ministry. It wasn't called Christian then because Jesus was alive and doing it. But if we're doing it, it's called Christian ministry because we follow Jesus' model. And so one day when Jesus was with his guys and he spoke to his first officer named Peter, whose name in Greek Petra means rock or stone, he said, man, who do people think I am? I mean, what do they think's going on with us as we travel around like this? And so Peter says, you know what? I know who you are. You are Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus immediately says to him, bro, you didn't learn that in no book. You didn't learn that at Hebrew school. You didn't learn that in college. You didn't learn that in elementary school. God directly downloaded that into your head such that you were able to say it. But I want to let you know what's going to be the result of that. On the substantive foundation of what you've had to say, in that your name is rock. Upon this rock, he called him the rock. I don't know if he looked like the rock in our time, but he says to Peter, upon the rock being that confession of who Jesus is by Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. And church here, don't think of as a building. You need to think of it as a relationship or a community of people who are bound by a common purpose. The Greek word, as it was translated early in the first century, was called the word ekklesia. And ekklesia was originally the word that Greeks used for an assembly of people gathered together around shared interests. It has some political connotations, but it has further connotations in the spiritual context in that the ekklesia of Christ, the church of Christ, it is the called out to be different and distinct from the rest of the world. We are to be the model based on living our lives after the model of Jesus. I hope that makes sense to you. In order for us to be more loving and productive, we have to be searching out ways to meet human needs. We have to be searching out ways to meet human needs. Now, you know some people who don't have enough to eat. Make it your business. If you ain't got but $2, find some other people to help you make some money, put it together and buy people food. If you need to help people find housing, if it's a shelter or a housing for themselves, do those kinds of things. Get information in front of people who need it so they can help themselves. You've heard this thing forever. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a meal, and if you teach him how to fish, he can eat all the time. It's that simple. It's too easy to talk and condemn people as if you are some kind of perfected spiritual supremacist when we know that your underwear, like everybody else's, gets dirty on occasion and you have to change them. I hope I'm talking to somebody today. All right, if you're going to be loving and productive, you got to be where people are, you got to meet people where they live, and help them meet the needs that they've identified for themselves, and in the context of doing that, you connect. One of the habits I've had all my life is from the moment I meet you, if I've never met you before, I want to affirm something in you that people don't regularly affirm, so that you look back at me and say, oh, what did I mean to that person so much that they identify this good thing in me that I didn't see? And so we immediately have a temporary bond that will be determined by the time we spend together after that. Does that make sense to you? If you can get people to be comfortable with you, like you as it were, long enough for you all to connect and build together and work together, you can demonstrate being loving and productive. And in so doing, you become a proficient kingdom relationship builder. Upon this rock I will build my church. A community of people with shared interests, building community locally and globally, what I call around the corner and around the world. Next, are you ready to live your life with love as your primary motivation? My. Wow. Do you mean you need to live with love as the reason for everything you do? Yes, ding, 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 ding. Yes, love needs to be the motivation for everything you think, say, and do. Remember the great commandment I've mentioned to you already. The commandment is, and it was given to the children of Israel when they were just getting laws as they were being led by Moses. God gives Moses laws, Moses gives them to the people. And they talked about loving God, the creator of all of life. They talk about loving God like more than you love anything else. Love God more than you love anything else. And then it doesn't stop there. It says, love your neighbor, love others like you already love yourself. So depending upon how well you love yourself, you can love others. Depending upon how well you love God, you love yourself. Are you listening to me? It is a circular, triune relationship that is all one relationship. It's a kingdom relationship, though it is taking place on earth. Are you listening to me? It is a kingdom relationship. It is a community of people with shared interests, and ekklesia. It is an assembly of people with shared interests, and our shared interest is living our lives after the model of Jesus, and love is the motivation for everything we do. Everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do. Listen, this internet has become a powerful tool in the last 20 years of my life, and I've been able to reach out on purpose and intentionally and reach out to people I would never have had opportunity to meet on every continent. Are you listening to me? On every continent, I've made connections with people that are meaningful for my life, and I thank God for that. Are you ready to live your life with love as your primary motivation? All right, next question is this: are you ready to live a life of forgiveness? Oh, you mean I got to forgive that devil that's been hurting me all my life? Yes, you really got to forgive that person. Are you able to forgive yourself? Well, listen, Jesus taught us in the model prayer that we are to, forgive us for the things we've done wrong, as we forgive others who've done wrong to us. That's real. That's practical. It's sowing and reaping. It's a complete whole. It's not just one piece. Forgiving, asking God to forgive you without your being willing to forgive someone else is just like living some deluded experience. It's a delusion. It's a disillusionment with what you think that does for you. Well, if you would be forgiven, get busy forgiving. I mean, man, look, that took me a long time to learn. Forgiving took me a long time to learn, but you need to get busy learning how to forgive, and you need to just make the list of everybody that you think you've ever offended, and between you and God, forgive them. If you need to do some forgiveness with people face to face, do that unless it'll cause a bigger problem, but get busy forgiving. I carried grudges, wanted revenge on some people for a very long time. And you know who the only person was that was really unhappy? Ding, 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 ding. It was me. And I'm not willing to live that kind of life anymore. I want to live a free life, to be able to live and love, be loving and productive, and build relationships everywhere I go. I have the desire to be a kingdom relationship builder. And I don't want to grow a half crop. I want to grow a whole crop that'll come to a full harvest. I hope you're hearing that today. All right. Are you committed? Are you committed to organizing people and organizing money to make a difference in the lives of others? All right, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you what it means. If I've got $1 and somebody I know or their family needs 25, well, I can't do what they need. But if I've got 24 friends who are willing on the basis of my asking them, listen, all you guys give me $1 a piece. There is a family that needs our help. They need help putting a little bit of food on their table to sustain their lives until another time. They need $25. I've only got one. But if you guys got one a piece, the 25 of us putting $1 together a piece, we can make a difference in one family's life. Are you hearing me? Think about this. If you have someone a group who's made a commitment that you're going to give $1 a week, and there's 1,000 of you, $1,000 a week can make a difference in the lives of some people who are doing without things that are necessary for life, who are doing without things that are necessary for life. Are you hearing me? There are millions of people, you hear me, millions right here in the US of A who are doing without things that are necessary for life, and we can make a difference, not as individuals, but as a group, as an ekklesia, as a group, an assembly sharing a common interest to love like Jesus loved, to be able to meet people right where they are, to help them meet needs, to help provide things that are necessary for life that they aren't able to provide for themselves. Oh, I hope you're hearing me today. Are you committed? Because organizing people and organizing money produces power to accomplish good. Organized money and organized people equals power to do good. All right. Last thing. Next to the last thing, perhaps. Are you ready to grow through study and personal development? Are you ready to grow? Or are you so stuck on yourself you think nobody or nothing can teach you anything? Shame on you. You are not all that. I'm telling you to your face, and I'm telling you through this camera. But I would say that to you in some kind of civilized dialogue. If you think you're all that by yourself, you are deluding yourself. We need each other. Are you hearing me? We need each other, and we need information, and we need to be able to have strategies and ways to apply the information that would suggest to us it will be beneficial to us. Hope that's making sense to you, because it is true that 25 people giving $1 a piece, 25 minds is better than your one mind. 25 minds is better than your one mind. Some people, when they get together in groups like that to think through things, they call it a mastermind group. We are more together than we are apart. Are you listening to me today? Are you ready to grow through study? You need to have a diligent course of study that you're working through. Please hear me, not every now and then, but all the time. You need to be reading, thinking, listening to a tape, watching a video that will help you develop to become, hallelujah, your best self. Are you hearing me today? You need to be studying, listening to a CD, watching a video, doing whatever it takes to gather information that has information that you can right now apply to develop your person to be of more loving service, that you may be more productive in your living. That is personal development that you want to do, and you want to always be doing it. But you know what? If you're not growing, you're not growing. Literally, people usually say if you're not growing, you're going the other way. But if you're not growing, if you're not developing, you're not growing and developing, and you want to be growing and developing all the time. As I get older, I'm 62 years old. As I get older, I'm not trying to get stale or old or useless or antiquated. I have the desire, I have the hot, passionate fire desire to continue to be relevant, to be loving and giving, and I want to be able to do that until I take my last conscious thought and breath. I want to be developing. As I'm dying, I want somebody to look down at me and say, "What'd you say?" I said, "Well, I was reading this book the other day, and it was giving me an idea, and I may not have time to apply it with you, but I declare to you, I think if you'll go and try that, it'll probably be a benefit to you and your family and some other people." I hope that's the testimony people tell on me one day. All right. Next one. Are you ready to share the work and the world of friendship, fellowship, relationship, and community with different others? People who are stuck on themselves cannot be involved with people who are different. Some people have hang-ups over color. Some people have hang-ups over gender. Some people have hang-ups over gender expression. Some people just have hang-ups thinking that everything they think they know is the only thing to be known. And I need to just tell you, God didn't design you like that. You got that on your own. For God so loved the world. For God so loved the world, not you by yourself. God loves you, but not you alone. You're not the express person of God alive in the 21st century. We all are. And so if you're stuck on yourself, it's going to be hard for you to live out what Jesus modeled. and that we have become. We who are Christian are diverse by nature. We are a universal context here on planet Earth. We're made up of Africans and Europeans and South Americans and Asians, and we are everybody, man. We are everybody because we are the ekklesia of Christ. And that's not local, that's global. Sorry, that is both local and global. That's around the corner and it's around the world. I hope that's making sense to you. In order to build community and to do the work of friendship and fellowship and relationship, you have to intentionally and on purpose hang out with, get to know some people who are different from you. Man, if you are scared to involve yourself in having conversations with women because of your little petty feelings of some woman is going to be talking bad about men, get up, get over it, grow, and get into the dialogue. We have these opinions of each other because we do not talk. I was in a conversation earlier today with people who say, what happens when people get married? They just gave each other so much attention before they got married, and right after they got married, nobody's giving anybody any attention anymore. Well, I'm going to tell you that. That's a sign of immaturity, that there was not enough conversation on the front side. Can I get a witness? That is a sign of not having gotten enough information, not had enough negotiation, and not had enough understanding before making that level of commitment. And when you are immature, making commitments at that level, and you're not prepared to make those kinds of decisions and commitments, I gotta promise you, what can go wrong will go wrong. You must be diverse by nature. If you're going to be a Christian, you must live intentionally diverse by nature and Christocentric by perspective. What Jesus thought and what Jesus modeled, we want to do our very best to do. All right, I hope that's making sense to you. Last thing, if you are saying yes to any of these questions, if you are saying yes, and you believe you are ready to say yes, then you must read Living Christian in an Unchristian World to establish your contemporary relevance, to know that you are important and giving and contributing and building right here, right now. It lays out a blueprint that will show you how to know all the time that you are relevant. And you want to be relevant. You want to be a living, loving, productive kingdom relationship builder everywhere you are. You want the people to see you as you just approach and people say, wow, what's up with that guy? What's up with that sister? They look different, look like they got a glow on them. Well, you want so much love working on you that you are radioactive with love. I hope you are hearing me today. I recommend to you Living Christian in an Unchristian World. And the last thing I want to remind you of, this book has been written because of two significant issues that are inherent in Christian living that we need to manage. One is we are not to be supremacists in any context, for God so loved the world, not just us. For God so loved the world and not just us. And our behavior should distinguish us from other folks. We shouldn't be doing the same kinds of things other folks are doing if we have determined them to be wrong. Are you listening to me? I want you to stay tuned. I want you to get this book. It is going to be an awesome experience for you. If you invest in it, I promise you it will deliver for you. Now, I want to thank you for having spent this time with me again today. I'm Oscar Crawford. This is the teaching ministry of New Eden. I'm always leaving the YouTube channel for you at the bottom of the screen, and my email address and the website. Dialogue with me. Let's share some ideas. We grow from the sharing. Now, right now, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you, make His face to shine upon you, and always give you His peace. Amen.